Hello everyone, the Deadly Shaman here, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be ranking the top 10 Witchdoctor powers for PVE, and giving my reasons as to why they're useful and what are some of the flaws with these powers. And I think it's only fitting that we're in the Witchdoctor Sanctum today with our trainer, Madame Vadimar, and of course, the #1 Witchdoctor companion, Old Scratch. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, in spot number 10 is Davey Jones' Grasp, Mutineer's Grasp, and Hoodoo Touch. So why are these so low in the list? It's simple. Crit debuffing is good, but that's about it. Crit debuffs are useful in PvE, but they're not that useful. Enemies still crit severely, even when I've used and stacked these crit debuffs on particularly hard bosses, such as Cain, Queen, sometimes even Bishop. And adding on to that, the damage itself is just horrible. It's so low even with all of Scratch's buffs stacked onto that. So that's why I think this is in spot number 10. Now onto spot number 9. Ravens and Crow. Ravens and Crow are probably in my own personal favorite list around 3 or 2. Because I love giving new companions extra epics for certain battles, or just giving companions more movement for fun. However, strategically in PvE, they're not useful. They're awesome powers, as they do give movement and epics to your companions, but you won't really be using them that often, especially as you'll mainly be using Witchdoctor companions such as Scratch and Mormo. And you won't really have many Witchdoctor enemies you'll be facing in this game that you'll need to give intuition or counterspell for, which is why I don't think they're really that useful in PvE, and there's only very little opportunities and setups that they are useful for. Now, in spot number 8, you may think that this is a bit of a wild call, but in spot number 8 is Juju. Yes, Juju is amazing, allowing you to buff all classes of companions, but it has its downfall. One downfall is that you can only use it when companions are directly next to you. It's not a widespread buff, like the Will buffs or Buccaneer buffs of Strength. Additionally, you won't really be needing to use Juju, as you'll be focusing on using a Scratch buff, because Scratch's buffs boost the power of your Witchdoctor damage without needing to use a Will buff. Furthermore, you'll only mainly be using Witchdoctors such as Mormo and Scratch, and sometimes even Carcarius, for the group AoE that they have. And you won't necessarily be needing Juju to increase the damage, you should be focusing on using your Scratch buffs. So that's why Juju's in spot number 8. Now in spot number 7 is Mojo Blade and Mojo Reaver. Two really good powers, but again, not as great as some of the powers that are going to be later on in this list. Mojo Blade and Mojo Reaver are awesome. They ignore armor, allowing you to pierce through enemies' armor and do a lot of damage, specifically with your Scratch buffs. However, to be able to use these powers and to set up to use them effectively, you have to be directly next to the enemy. And this means it often takes a while for enemies to move next to you, or you've killed them before they have the chance of moving next to you. And as a witch, you don't want to be moving next to an enemy, because then they'll just keep on attacking you relentlessly, and pretty much kill you. So when you do get to use these powers, they are amazing and really effective. However, they're not as good or as viable options as some of the other powers. This leads on to the next power, and that is Jobu's. And this includes all the Jobu's. So Jobu's Kiss, Jobu's Embrace, and Jobu's Breath. These are amazing. Once you get the AoE forms of Jobu's, so Jobu's Kiss and Jobu's Embrace, I would say this is a bit of an overstretch, but you are pretty much almost invulnerable in some sense. Using the Scratch buff, you can not only do massive damage, but also heal yourself back for an entire amount of health, making you last longer in the tough PvE battles, especially against those harder bosses such as Cain, Bishop, or even in the earlier worlds, such as Count Bastilio de Brass. Yet, it's not as good as the next power, Mojo Strike. So that includes Mojo Bolt, Mojo Blast, and these are exceptionally good. They can be used in close combat or in far combat, and they allow you to kill enemies quickly. With scratch buffs, you can be doing tons of Ks of damage, like 2,000, 3,000 damage instant killing enemies in one go. And you can be far back as possible and killing enemies from long distance. So, what is the next power? That next power is Soul Reaver, taking spot number 4. Soul Reaver is amazing. It does significantly decent damage. You get it early on in the game. It can be used close or far, and it does damage over time. And with a scratch buff, you can instantly kill enemies really, really easily. Even tough swashbuckler bosses such as Queen before they even get close to you, if you play your cards right and have a lot of buffs on you. And in spot number 3, we have Mojo Burn. Another great power. Mojo Burn is amazing. You can use it on Witchdoctor enemies. You can use it on pretty much any enemies, because in the higher arcs, most enemies have significantly high spell power, which means that the damage over time component of Mojo Burn is going to be incredibly high. And even more so, given your scratch buffs, and when questing with other players, it can lead to insane amounts of overtime. Now, in spot number 3, we have Mojo Burn. Mojo Burn is the new power for max level pirates, max level witch doctors I should say, and it is amazing PVE. Mojo Burn gives damage over time for 2 rounds equivalent to the spell power of the enemy. You may be thinking, why is it so good? Wouldn't it only be useful on witch doctors? No. It's useful on any type of enemy, because at higher levels I've found that a lot of enemies, including Kain and even Rook, have very, very high spell power. So it's amazing at trying to kill those tough enemies when you've run out of cards such as Mornsong or Soul Reaver, or other damage over time cards. Now, I'm pretty sure you all know what is coming up in spot number 2. That's right, it is Mornsong. Monsoon, hands down, is the best damage over time card. You get it in a side quest in Cool Ranch, and it is amazing. I mean, who doesn't want to see a red dragon flying around with its babies and then coming out from the ground and then swallowing your enemies and leaving damage over time? I mean, I love it. From the aesthetics to the look of the card to the actual ability and damage, it's all so amazing. Like, I see no flaws, only positives. With scratch buffs, you can instantly kill enemies. Really, really easy. So you may be wondering, then what is spot number 1? That spot is Shadowstep. Shadowstep, hands down, in my opinion, is the best power for a witch doctor in PVE. It is amazing. It can get you out of those tough and tricky situations in a snap. So what Shadowstep does is that it allows you to teleport to any empty square on the battlefield. That's any square, not just a square within range. Any square. And that is so good when you've got enemies piling up against you and you're low on health. You can use Shadowstep to teleport to the far end of the battlefield, and then use the time that it takes for enemies to walk up to you to put on those forts, those absorbs, heal up, buff yourself, buff your companions. It is, hands down, one of the best powers in the game, and only witch doctors can get it, which is an awesome thing. So, those are my top 10 witch doctor powers for PvE. What are your thoughts? Do you think I missed some? Do you think I should have included others? Or do you think some should not have been even in this list? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And please like and subscribe to my channel. And as always, make sure you're keeping the spiral deadly.